And now we'll bring the dozer back in, or the top half of the dozer back in. So the plan here, though, is to basically mount these linear actuators right about like that. You can see this has plenty of range movement in here. When this is all the way up and retracted, these work out to be about the same length, work out pretty good. So what I did on my last one, I'll go and pop these off. I'm going to reutilize these mounts, and I'll show you how to do it. I can move this. Oh, I got to start cleaning it up. Get this receiver out of my, or transmitter out of my way, and I'll get my saw back. And ultimately, I'm just going to saw these tabs off. So I'll just go right down. So once you start cutting in here, basically getting as flush as possible. Yeah. Hold this the other way and get a better grip on it. Get those ears off. Don't need those ears. And then get my sandpaper out and sand this down nice and smooth. And ultimately, I'm going to glue this directly to the back side of the linear actuator. Basically, I'm going to glue it right like that, and then the linear actuator will hang there using the existing mounts. It allows it to move and swing. So far, the way I've done it like this, it's worked out pretty well. So I'm going to bring these stickers off. And we'll get these stickers off the front. And we'll want to clean up the back side of this. First, going to just get some heat rubbing that adhesive off. Actually, quite a bit right there, so I'll just kind of scrape it off. And I'm actually going to sand this up a little bit, again, to rough up the surface a little bit. You know, get a little bit of abrasion there, or coarseness, so that as I take this, clean up some of this real quick. And we are just going to super glue this right there. I'm going to get it on all faces that will touch it. Put one down in the middle. And super glue right centered at the top, so that's kind of flushed out right at the top there. And we'll hold this down. We'll let that sit up for a minute or so as I get this other one sawed off. Now, if you're a hardcore user and you're going to be pushing a lot of dirt, a lot of heavy stuff, this might not be the way to go. I could see these snapping off pretty easy, but if you're just a light user playing around every now and again, I think this will be okay. I'm sanding this down so that all these surfaces touch. So when I put glue on each one of these, it's all sticking there. Just the more surface area you can get, the better. I think I need a new piece of sandpaper. Get a little. There we go. So now you can see all these surfaces are nice and smooth. So we'll just kind of scrape some of the excess material out of there and grab our other linear actuator and get rid of the stickers. And again, just sand the top of that a little bit. Just coarse it up a little bit. Now take the glue to there, and there, there, and one down the middle. top, kind of right flush with the top, and set it on there. You got a second or two before it'll really adhere. Oh, it's not very square. That looks good. I like to give it a good press. That kind of helps bond it a little bit better. And again, we'll let it sit for a minute. So those can be attached right as they are. I kind of like the look of this top one. It's kind of got a nice cylinder look. If I just stuck these on the top of the dozer, you know, really want it that look that legit. So what I did last time was I just cut the top of this off and glued it on there. But before I did that, I will drill these out and we'll get LEDs put in there. We'll cut a hole in the back here and run the LEDs down and then make a hole in the back of this so the wire will come out and it'll come right along with this wire and go down inside the dozer. So adding LEDs is kind of a little bit of an annoying task. They take kind of forever to do. I don't need that. I don't need that. So get rid of those. But I'm going to save these top halves. And actually, I just cut them right at the top of that line. So we're just going to go and cut it. I'm going to cut it basically right at the top of this, what would be the original like cylinder head or trunnion mount. Actually, I need a block to put under so it doesn't press up on the blade. So, bottom part don't need, but we keep the top half. I'll trim that out a little bit. I'll do a little bit of trimming. I'll trim this and I'll get this to basically slide on top of there and then we'll glue that in. So we'll have that kind of that look. And we'll do the same with this one. There we go. And now we have these two top halves, and we'll I like to add LEDs to each side of these, so we'll end up having 6 LEDs, like white LEDs total, 2 on the top of each cylinder head. I'll add one here, and then I got some blinking LEDs that I'll put inside here. So actually, I'll just kind of show you what I do there. Using those pliers, and these just kind of pop off. I was thinking they just popped off, yeah. There we go. They kind of slide off. And I use my cutters and just cut the inside of that out. I don't know if it's a little hard to see. I'll cut the inside of that out. So the LED fits in there, and then I just put a dab of super glue to keep the LED in there, and then I'll just glue that right back on. So I'll be messing with those in a little bit here when we get into the LEDs. Pop that off. But in the meantime, I want to open this up to give us an access panel to get to the batteries, to get to the electronics without having to remove this whole top. So to do that, I'll kind of flip this down here. You can see that we have this black hood right here is clasped at the back. Then there's 2 here. So I'm actually going to break these and get rid of all 3 of those. So to begin with, I'll just take my flush cuts right in there and cut that tab off. So I just cut that tab off so this thing will pop off pretty relatively easily. And then I'll need to pry those 2 out. So I'll get my screwdriver in there. And actually, forget it. I'm going to get the flush cutters and start to take the top of those off, because again, I'm not needing those clips. Okay, give me some more room. Actually, I can't get the room yet until I get these off. Got fat hands. I got that started. I'll use my X-Acto knife to kind of finish that cutout. You always want to be careful with the X-Acto knife. Don't want that going through a thumb, so keep your fingers out of the way. you can see I kind of use my flush cuts to kind of start cutting it off, and then use that to kind of finish the cut. So I'll flip this over and do the same thing on this side. Actually, I think it'll be a little easier this way. Get some more cut out in there. There we go. Oh, blade decided to stay. So now this should pop off. Relatively simple. There we go. So now this pops off here. And this takes a little bit to come out. It will come. But I'm going to make that easier to come out the next time. So I'll trim this up a little bit. I'm actually going to probably leave. No, I usually trim this off a little bit. And then we'll trim these off. Cut that like that. Okay. And then this lip right there would fit down inside there. And that kind of makes it real hard to remove. So I am going to cut it off. We don't need it. Get my razor blade back on here. Some of this stuff is where I wish I had my Dremel tool. Again, I can't find it. So I'll just kind of score a line in here. And once the line's scored, I can bend it off. So now, let's see, what else do I have to trim out? Oh, I do need to trim these off, they'll get in the way. Okay. So now this will kind of fit right back down in there. Actually, I got to get rid of this top piece as well, but I can force that down. But I want to be able to get to my batteries down here, so this all has to go. So I'm going to take this side panel off, so I'm going to keep this side panel. So that side panel stays on by this, and that's going to go. You can see I'm taking this little tab out inside there, so I'll just bend it back, break it off. Now the side panel will pop out. And I got 3 tabs down here, right there, or it's actually 2 tabs down there that hold that on. So I'm going to clip those off as well. Okay, so now that this door's off, this will actually pop back into place relatively easy. But what we're going to cut out, I'm going to kind of mark lines just so you can see what we're going to cut out. We're going to trim these off down here and down there. Trim this off up through there, as well as up this side. And we'll take this off. We'll take this whole front off. And actually, I'm going to leave this over here. So we'll trim this up here and down there, and we'll have to cut up and around this. But we're going to take all that out, and that gives us enough room to put a battery in there, unhook it, hook it back up. If you need to swap batteries, you can get to the receiver. So I like to use the flush cutters for a lot of it, just get the manual hogging out of there, and then I'll go back and clean it up with the Exacto knife or a file. So we'll get this out of there. There's one chunk out. And actually I use this knife a lot. I'll go and cut the top of this. Here's where exactly I wish I had my Exacto knife from my Dremel. Okay, that just got rid of a bunch. Got a whole line cut all the way from there down. So I'll snip this out. Snip this other one out. And that's cut. I'll make a cut right here. Now I'm going to use just my razor blade knife and score a line. And I got to cut back here. Actually, I'm going to just use this to cut down. Put it where you can halfway see it. I can hear you guys saying, oh, if you just had your Dremel, it'd be so much easier. Yes, I know. Okay. So, that's cut, that's cut. I do need to cut. Actually, I'll just cut this up here. Don't really want to damage anything that is going to be saved. There we go. Got that broke. There we go. Get that out of there. Now when it's on there, you have plenty of room to get in there. If you actually want to trim this back some more, you can. I like to leave it for a little bit extra strength up top. I will come back through here now and clean this up. This is where just a simple file is handy. Just to kind of smooth some measures down. But what's nice about this is this panel will fit right back in here. Fits in there well. And now that I might have to cut that hump out. I need to cut this hump out. Cut that right there. Right there. There we go. So now this will slide right back down there, and boom. Looks just like before. Don't see anything missing. Still relatively strong. But when you want to work on or get to the battery, this comes up. This pops out, full access. No screws, no bolts, no nothing. And not dealing with prying this whole thing off the top. So once you get all this wired and get in there, it can stay in there. And this is more than enough room. I'll show you. Like once this battery's sitting down here, this on here, you can see there's more than enough room here to basically get to the battery, sliding it in and out. So really like this method. So I guess the next step is getting the electric actuators finished and mounted to the blade. Alright, so since I don't have my motor controllers or the ESCs for the linear actuators yet, I'm going to go ahead and work on LEDs tonight to get this get the LEDs finished up while I'm waiting on those. So to begin with, I popped out all of the little gray, what would have been like the lenses. Oh, sorry, get this down here so you guys can see. Popped all those out from here or there, in from the brackets that are going to go on top of the cylinders. And what we'll do is basically just drill a hole in them so that I can take an LED and fit it up inside there, sort of like so. And then also what I'll do is I'll drill a small hole down in the down through this housing for the place for the wire to go. And I'll cut out some of this internal brackets so the LED has room to fit in there. like you see I've done on this side. So the LED goes through the hole, fits in there, and then the wires can kind of come out the bottom. And ultimately these wires I'll just loop around this back of the ROPS and get them down inside the cab. I'll cut that out, and that's where the wires will come through at. I'll cut those out on both sides. So these will still be clipped on, but just those tabs will be gone. And then use flush cuts, cut these off, and drill the hole out bigger, like I did here, to get the blink LEDs for the strobes on top. For that, you got this stem sticking out of the bottom of the amber lens. So just take some flush cuts and snip it off, but it's still sticking out a lot to where the LED won't fit in there. So if you can see, I've touched that won't go in there. So not the easiest thing to do, but if you start taking your X-Acto knife and keep rotating it and trimming it down, you can trim that back far enough that you can get that LED inside there. So I already did the other one, so got it out, put a dab of hot glue in there, squeezed it in, and now it's adhered to there pretty well. These are like 3 to 5 volt blinking LEDs. I got a pack of 100 of them for a couple bucks off of, I don't know, somewhere once. So I got a bunch of them, so it's just a simple, easy way to kind of have that strobe looking going on the top. And I did pick up some RC switches, so we'll wire in this RC switch to one of the channels so I can turn the lights on and off from the transmitter. So that'll get, the glue will get cleaned up, and then this will basically go right down on top and glue on there. I'll certainly get some leads soldered on here first before I do that. Get some leads on it, and I'll do that for these sides. For the top of the cylinder mounts, drill a hole through the middle of these, and then drill a bigger hole, kind of getting rid of that internal stuff. Sort of like you see there, got some room cleaned out so the LED will go in there. Then drill a hole in the backside for a place for the wire to go. So, like for instance, I got this LED inside that housing, so I'll pull that through there and kind of get it started, and then use my flat screwdriver to go ahead and pop it in place. If any of these, you put any of these LEDs in, they're loose, put a dab of hot glue in there to kind of seal it up. Like this one actually here is pretty tight, but if I ever get a loose one, you can put a little dab of hot glue around the back. And then we'll route these wires down this hole, and then they'll go out down this pocket, and this will close in on top to hide all the wires. We'll drill a hole in the back to let them go out, and they'll go in with the linear actuator wires. So they'll look pretty seamless. You won't have a bunch of wires laying everywhere. What I do need to do, so off camera you'll get caught up on all those. I do need to drill 2 decent sized holes in here because we have 2 sets of LED wires and the wires for the linear actuators. So like if we look at this wire, it's going to be about right in there. And when you look on the inside, there's kind of a spot right in the corner for it. So I'll just take my smaller drill, kind of drill a pilot so I know I'm getting it basically where I want to go. And yeah, that doesn't look too bad. You can see that hole down in the corner. I might try to come back in towards the tractor unit a little bit more with my next one. And I'll get my larger drill and throw a bit in it. Again, love my Milwaukee cordless. Wish I could find my Milwaukee kind of Dremel tool. So I'll take this and I'm going to angle it back towards the inside of the dozer a little more. So we'll look at that. Yeah, that hole's nice and good. I can get all 3 sets of wires in there pretty easily. So knowing that, I'll go ahead and just put this one on this side as well. There we go. Get that out of the way. Now it's probably really noisy with that drill right by there. Sorry about that. So I'll do a little bit of cleaning after this. I got holes for all the LEDs to come in at. And so off camera I'll get all the LEDs done. And once they're all in, kind of hot glue them in place, get all the wires together so they can plug into the RC switch easy enough. So, alright, to the next step. Alright, it's been a while since I worked on the D11, but we're back. I was waiting on parts. So in the off time where we left off, I was getting all the LEDs installed. So as you can see, we got an LED here and here. I actually put flashing LEDs in here to kind of act as strobes, as well as we got 4 LEDs up front in the cylinders. Kind of soldered them all together, brought all my LEDs together, one lead, kind of hot glued the wires in there to kind of keep the cable management pretty decent. Then I took the electric actuators and soldered a connector on there to plug into the dual ESC that finally came in. That was the thing we were waiting on. So let me grab the dual ESC, which I got pushed out of the way when I was trying to clear a spot here. Oh, right here. So actually, I've had dual ESCs. The last dual ESCs I used was a 5 amp. And I was looking for something a little more powerful because on my last dozer, when you got into a hard pull or a hard push, the it would short out or fault out. You'd have to cycle power on it to start working again. So I looked for a dual 10 amp ESC, couldn't find one. So I ended up buying 2 individual 10 amp ESCs, and I went ahead and soldered their main power source or power lead together. Then I have the lead for each linear actuator, and then each plug for the receiver. These actually come with some on-off switches. We'll just leave them alone. But now we're basically ready to put this together. On the dozer itself, I made kind of a pigtail wire harness. Get this out here so we can kind of see what's going on. I got the receiver down in here, and then I made a pigtail that actually branches off power. So I have one of the powers to power up the ESC or power up the receiver, which technically I don't need because I could pull power from the ESCs. Then I got a power coming in for the lights, so I installed a switch, an RC switch, to turn the lights on and off. So this will get plugged into our lights, and then I have another one here to power the ESCs. I also ran this down to a push on off or toggle switch for turning the power on and off remotely, so when you have the cap on you can easily get it. So I have a bunch of these little simple switches at work, so I just brought a few home and used a hole saw to drill a hole in there, pop the switch in, and then wired into the power harness. So I still need to pick up, I haven't got a chance to go to Harbor Freight yet and pick up some lead weights. Harbor Freight has some lead weights that have adhesive back and fit in there real nice. So I can plug my battery in, and we'll go ahead, and for right now I'm not going to pop it back down on yet because I'm not 100% finished with everything here, but I can plug the lights into the switch. Oh, I got the wrong connector on here. That's right, I swapped my connectors around. I need to swap the correct connector around for the lights. I'll do that at a later point in time. I'll go ahead and plug in my 2 ESCs. Okay, got those plugged in, and I'll plug these into channels 3 and 4. I might have to come back here and get them right. So there's that one plugged in. There's that one plugged in. And let's see if these have a little LED light on. I don't see any lights. We'll see. Okay, next we'll plug our linear actuators in. And I'll plug that one in. And we'll just do a quick simple test. I'll bring my transmitter over here. And we're connected. So as of right now, I've got no controls on there, so let me flip these switches the other way. And still no control. So what do I got going on here? Okay, had the plug in backward to the receiver. Pay attention when you're plugging stuff in. Good thing I didn't fry it. So I'll stick that stuff back on there. And now, okay, I need to reverse my endpoints. So we know how to do that. Oh, it wasn't even on the camera. So now, down is all the way down. Up will bring them all the way up. And if I bring it to neutral, it'll stop where it's at. So the center spring is nice, that it'll keep that centered there. So if I want to go down, I can push down. And when you bring it back to center, it'll just hold the blade where it's at. But the cool thing is when you go left to right, you can tilt this blade. And if the tilt is backwards, just swap the wires. So that gives you lift, lower, and blade tilt. Now you need to be careful. These fight one another so much that it will basically overload the 5 amp kind of circuit breaker in there, and you'll have to cycle power to it to bring it back. Kind of was wanting to go for a 10 amp one, but this dual ESC is really nice. It works really well. No mixes involved. So we're ready to basically put this back together. I guess the last thing to do, the last thing that needs to be done is I need to cut these off, there, 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 and there. And I'll use my saw for that purpose. Oh, I'll drop some stuff. Let's go ahead and just pop this off of the way before I break it. So we'll end up using that. But we'll saw these off and then drill holes through them. So not only will I saw them off, I'll also shave this little tab down so I can get a drill in there easier. And for drilling these, highly recommend a long bit. So you can come in here from the side. So you can come in here for the side with your drill to get it through there, and then just put a couple screws holding them onto there. So let's go ahead and cut. And yes, I know, if I had my Dremel, still can't find it. I think I'm resorting to the fact that I've lost it for good and have to go buy a new one, which is really sad. So then I'll just kind of take my flush cuts and just kind of cut that off a little bit. Do the same on this side. You can shave most of it off just with flush cutters. But then the other thing you can do is take your Dremel. Now, for me, I'll just take the file. Get that sanded off flush so that when I drill, it's not, it can stay, the drill bit can do a better job of staying centered on there. So the next, I need to run upstairs and grab my drill and then pop this in there, pop a few holes, and put our blade back on and get this working. So I'm gonna go grab my drill.